attitude we have about who we think we are is something that we think continues to be throughout the duration of our life. And this is just wrong. We are constantly changing, constantly evolving. But as long as you hold these views of self, you hold a rigid position against change and transformation. So if you're wanting to overcome some of these mental issues, you have to see yourself changing. You have to try to apply the information that you receive through meditation, through your studies, and so on, into your daily life. So having this openness and letting go of this false sense of self is very, very important and crucial before any meditation session. Okay? Now, what are these negative effects of anger? What is anger doing to us? Well, it causes stress. It can cause us to lose friendships because we lash out at people and they get tired of being around that. It limits our problem solving. It limits our ability to problem solve and get ourselves out of situations and make our lives improve, because it makes us reactive rather than proactive. So we're reactive to a situation, we're reactive to someone coming into our experience and bringing something to us that trips our trigger. And the tripping of this trigger, anger, is a type of self-preservation energy. The fight or flight mechanism, which gets triggered due to a physical stressor. A rabid bear comes into the room right now. I don't know how he's going to get in, but all of a sudden, all of the energy in my torso goes into my arms and my legs to either stand, fight, and protect the self, or to get the legs moving to get out of there to also protect the self. Anger is a mental self-preservation energy. And so when somebody brings us something dissatisfactory to us, our brain is actually calculating a fear of death. That's what self-preservation is. All fears are linked to the fear of death. So this ignorance that we talked about a minute ago, of the identifying of the self, is also an ignorance directed towards an overestimation of how much danger or how much change or could that other person or this situation create death for us. It's an ignorance that miscalculates. It's a misknowing, an energy that misknows or doesn't understand the true nature of the situation, the person, or the self. And so this use of anger becomes a force, an outward going force. And that's different than power. Okay, so patience is the opposite of anger. And having great patience is a power. Whereas the use of anger is using forceful energy, whether verbally or physically. So patience must also be understood as anger is an emotion, it's an affliction, but patience is an active discipline. It is actively taking control of a situation, either when or during, when the anger arises or while it's arisen. We take an active discipline to pull ourselves back and to try to understand the situation. Patience is proactive. It is having a concern for others, and it is a wisdom. So even if you pause for only 2 seconds, instead of being reactive, if you pause for just 2 seconds and have just 2 seconds of proactive energy, it will accumulate over time. The next time it'll be 4 seconds, the next time maybe 8, and so on. So remember also to be easy with yourself as you're developing patience and you're trying to reduce your anger. Don't then get angry at yourself for reacting. Understand what happened and take it to your cushion and analyze it. So there are many, many techniques that you can use to develop more patience and reduce your anger over time. And one of them, first of all, and should be a daily practice, a moment-by-moment practice, is called metta. And metta is loving kindness. The more you love others, that means you want them to be happy, the less you're going to want to use forceful energy at them, use anger energy at them. And also this practice of exchanging self and others. We talked about Tonglen in another video, exchanging self and others. We talked about the 7-point mind training, where you visualize all beings as having been your mothers, and you develop over time a great compassion, which is a wish that they be free from suffering. So the more honest you are with your loving kindness, and the more honest you are with your compassion, the less you're going to want to create more suffering for the person that comes to you and creates anger for you, or seems to create anger for you. That's the thing. Anger is, again, an energy in the brain that's trying to defend the self. And that means that the person that seems to trigger my anger had nothing to do with it. It's the way I've allowed my brain to become habituated to reaction, or habituated to proaction. Okay? So we're the ones that are creating this energy. We're the ones that are creating this emotion. It's also important to understand that there are two different appearances of this forceful energy, this angry energy. There is the anger that's an affliction. That's the one that stays with us long after an event has happened and we just can't seem to calm down. And then there is the anger that seems to be outward towards a social injustice or a defense mechanism for somebody else. So imagine, if you will, a mother practicing patience, someone who is the stereotypical Buddhist, which the stereotypical Buddhist, I say, is the zoned out, blissful, everything's just peaceful and we don't want to cause any drama attitude. That just is flat out wrong. But this person, for instance, is watching their child walk across the street and then notices a car zooming very, very fast that the child doesn't see. Is that mother, out of fear of using that forceful energy, does that person just go, honey, you better move a little bit faster? No. They use that energy to either scream at the child to run or darts out in front of the car and saves the child's life. And right after that moment is over with, their energy immediately goes back to compassion and love for the child that they just saved. So you see, a lot of my friends and my teachers differentiate anger from wrath. Wrath is coupled with compassion. Anger is just about the self. And with the things that are going on now in our country, we're going to have to practice wrath from time to time as we take to protesting. And these protests should be peaceful, but they should also be a proper use of wisdom energy with wrath. So one of the other techniques I use for myself, I think the Buddhist master that I'm thinking of is Rendawa. He used to carry 3 bags with him, and one bag was full of white rocks, another bag was full of black rocks, and one bag was empty. And throughout the day, when he would have a negative thought or a negative action, he would move a black rock into the empty bag. If he had a positive restraint, positive emotion, he would move one white rock into the empty bag. And at the end of the day, he would empty the bags out, and he would look to see if he had more white than black or vice versa. And so I was, in the early 2000s, dealing with road rage an awful lot. My friends will tell you that used to ride with me. I would get so angry going from one rehearsal to the next rehearsal if a car cut me off, because I had a certain amount of time I thought I absolutely had to be there. And so I tried this trick. I went to the Sunspot Foods store in Kokomo, Indiana, and they had polished stones, and I bought a whole bunch of black ones. They didn't have white ones, but I bought a whole bunch of clear quartz. And I bought 3 muslin bags, and I hung them on my vent in my car. And whenever I would have a moment of road rage, I'd move a black stone. When I would catch myself and restrain myself, I'd move a clear stone. And when I'd get where I was going, I would empty the bags, the 3rd bag, and check them out to see how I was doing. And eventually I got to a point where I trained the mind to be more proactive and less reactive, and my road rage went away. 99% road rage gone. And I don't remember who I gave those bags to, but I gave them to a friend who wanted to try that trick themselves. So this is a technique you can try. And I also used to wear my mala around my wrist, like most Buddhists. I don't wear it around my wrist anymore because from teaching color guard, I'll sometimes break a bead, and now I wear it around my neck. So I The mala was a reminder for me. It was around my wrist, and it would remind me that I'm turning to the Buddha's teachings to make myself a better person, and developing patience is better than being angry. So one time we were on a lunch break from a rehearsal, and 3 of the other staff members, one of them being my best friend Wyatt, and I were on our way to lunch. And as we were coming up to this traffic light, there are 3 lanes. One turns left, one turns right, and one goes right down the middle. And I was in the middle lane, and there was a truck in the left turn lane with its left turn signal on, but I noticed he kept looking over his shoulder at me, checking me out, and he must have not realized he hadn't switched his turn signal, because he started to turn into my lane, and I had just enough time to slam on the brakes as his truck turned this way and was about that far from my mirror. Everyone in the car gasped, and there were some almost embarrassing screams. And I had my window down, and I raised my hand as the guy got out of his truck, and I yelled, "Sir!" And I saw that mala, and I said, "You can't do that!" And he just looked like this. Everyone in the car erupts into laughter. I just drive on, and Wyatt goes, "So that's how you did it. You told him off that way." But it was a reminder for me, and I saw the guy's face. He knew that he had made a mistake, and everything was fine. But the mala represented a reminder, and so if you can wear a reminder, a ring or something to catch yourself, something to remind you that you're practicing patience, so you bring it off of your cushion and into your everyday life, that will be something that helps. Then there is these 3 lines are wonderful to meditate upon. They're from the 8 verses for training the mind, and I'll make a video sometime just explaining these 8 verses, but these 3 verses I want you to think about. Whenever I see ill-natured beings or those overwhelmed by heavy misdeeds or suffering, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I found a precious treasure. So one thing to keep in mind, if you're a Buddhist practitioner, that every emotion we have seems to calibrate the consciousness at the same vibration of the 6 realms in the desire realm. So if you're having a moment of anger, that's the same vibration as a hot hell. And if you're having a moment of pride, that's the same vibration as the God realm. And anxiety as the animal realm, and so on. So if you died in that moment, you would immediately activate all of those karmic tendencies, those karmic impressions, and they would cause rebirth in that realm. Cause for rebirth as a human is restraint from a non-virtuous action. So when you restrain yourself, you're not just practicing proactiveness, you're also creating the merit to have a human rebirth. So the only way to create this is to hold vows, and those vows are, if with the Bodhisattva ideal, are towards all sentient beings. So when a person is coming at you angry, and your reaction is to lash back out at them, the restraint you create actually becomes a cause to take a human rebirth, if you're practicing Buddhism. So we need sentient beings, we need them, and so having this opportunity to restrain yourself, as this line is saying, makes them a precious treasure. When someone out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. This is best summed up in my best friend Wyatt's way of saying this. Pick your battles. Is this what you want to fight? Do you really want to fight this? Do you want to be happy, or do you want to be right? Choose. Wyatt says this all the time, and it's true. Pick your battles. Do you want to be happy, or do you want to be right? Most of the time, you can't have both. So sometimes it's best to just say, you know what, I'll accept the blame, let's move on. And then that diffuses the other person, and then you can move on and go on with your life. And then even when someone I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me very unjustly, I will view that person as a true spiritual teacher. So this is, again, back to the how do we develop patience? We develop patience in our interactions with others. And if we're going to develop patience and we're going to hold these vows to protect and help other beings and help remove their suffering, then they're an opportunity for us. So when a person is testing us, or when that person does something that is supposed to trip our trigger, they're a teacher. if we can remain self-aware, if we can, like I said at the beginning of this video, stay open to transformation. When that person punches our buttons, we check our reaction and see, how am I doing? Am I more patient than I was yesterday? Am I less patient? Can I remain, compassionate to this person and help them diffuse their situation? Because if they're coming at me angry, then something in them has already miscalculated as well. They're working now from their own ignorance. How can I help remove that ignorance and introduce wisdom? Or how can I just be less reactive and open to them so that they can just spill it out and get it over with? So I hope some of these, if you really, think about these techniques, particularly the 3 bags, that really helped me an awful lot. If you think about these techniques and take them to your cushion and work on it, you should see some transformation over time, but you have to be open to that transformation, and you have to work on it daily. So metta, loving kindness, exchanging self for others. This is compassion. Then you practice your own restraint. It's an active discipline. There's no magic button. Or you can recite the Om Mani Padme Hum prayer over and over and over again with your mala, and visualize yourself gaining patience, and you're becoming a more patient person, and also have an image, an idea of what that patient person should look like. Think of the most patient person you know, and visualize becoming just like that person. So, hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section.